sorted. You can hear me? Hello, hello. Looks like it. Oh. Yep. Bit earlier today. Definitely a bit earlier. But hopefully it'll be okay. I've got coffee. Oh. Oh. How you going? Say hello if you're there. Can you guys hear me okay? Kate, good stuff. Thank you. Excellent, excellent. We'll, excuse me, just give it a few minutes for people to turn up. Whoa. Morning, Vic. Morning, Helen. How you going? It's just looks like the nighttime thing here, but it's actually a really bright sunny day down here for the first time in a little bit, which is good. Loud and clear. Awesome. It's a not just subject matter, but it's a different approach I'm taking today to the paintings themselves. I'll explain a bit more when we start. Now, give me a second. I've just got to go and do some boring things, which I'll keep there. I'll do some boring things like zooming in and putting tape down and all that. I'll get rid of that. Yeah, it's pretty accurate. Okay. Good stuff. I've got to try and fix this desktop, which is so friggin' heavy, and the not to mention the base of it, which is heavier than me, and that's heavy. Need to try and get it so it doesn't shoot itself as soon as I put a bit of pressure on it. But if you're there, say hello so I know who I've got. It's awesome. This YouTube thing is so much more stable than anything we've ever done on Facebook. If you cast your mind back to last Thursday, when I ran around like a blue-ass fly for an hour trying to make Facebook work, that's just something that's not in my power. But yeah, interesting. But yeah, YouTube's heaps better. Heaps better. Facebook's great for the social side of things and sharing, posting work and notifications, but YouTube definitely wins out for the actual thing, the actual working. Put that there. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, good. Awesome. Yeah, I'm just going to try and make the camera look as natural as I can. Oh, where are we? Yeah, that's right. Easier to find later. That's absolutely right. It's just better all round. Good idea by me. I'll give myself a pat on the back for that one. It's good. See, I can muck around with these settings. It's just too cool. See, well, that's probably a bit more accurate there. That'd be interesting to record yourself in black and white. That'd be bizarre. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. Almost ready. Awesome. Awesome. So 10 of us here. We've just gone 9 o'clock, so we'll just give it another few seconds. So the thing that I'm going to do differently in this this session is I'm actually going to paint pictures that I've never ever painted before. These two scenes I've never touched ever. So what I hope to do, good morning Kerry, how you going? What I hope to do is sort of give you a bit of insight on my thought processes, and I'll try and, you know, everything I think about the painting only. Everything I think I will splurt forth from my gob, so that might give you a bit of an insight on how I approach it. And they may work, they may not. Some paintings work first go, and they're usually the best ones you ever do, is those things you don't have to labour over. So fingers crossed we've got 2 of those today. But it doesn't matter either way, because, you know, if I just let you in on my thought processes, then that might alleviate some issues going forward. I'm going to get a webcam. This webcam right here that I am currently foisting upon you is it's just on the computer itself. While it's okay in full natural light, we kind of can't, we don't have that in this room, because right out the window, which is just there, right out the window is a massive carport, and no light gets in this room. It's pretty shit, really. But it's all I've got. So you'll just have to put up with me looking beautiful like this for a while. Okay, thank you as well for everyone's support. I really appreciate it, and sharing and all that. We're moving up as far as the numbers of shares go, numbers of shares and number of members in the group, and members on my YouTube page as well, which is amazing. And everything's looking good. Now, the podcast, I am launching, the first episode of the podcast will be out on Wednesday, July 8th. So lock that date in. I will, I'm going to post a little preview and a little trailer for it soon. Probably later today, if I get that time this afternoon, once I've done what I need to do. I'm going to do that, I reckon. And I'll post it up. I've already recorded it. I've just got to post it in the right spot. It'll be sweet. Okay. And yeah. But thanks for turning up an hour early. I know it's a bit of an ask. Sydney's really struggling with her sleep at the moment. Well, she always has, really. She stays up with us the whole time. We just can't get her to go to sleep. It's friggin' annoying until we go and she's in our bed. So yeah, it's very annoying. And she just thrashes about. We've got a king-size bed, and she just thrashes about all night. And basically no one has a good sleep. But poor little bugger. I'm not whinging, because there'll come a time when she just doesn't want anything to do with us. So I'm happy about that. I'm happy to stay realistic there. Morning, Guinevere. How you going? Just seeing that now. Okay, almost there. Okay, so I'm gonna show you the first one we're going to do is this one. Now I'm just going to make sure it fits with that screen. Won't be a sec. Yeah, nice, good. It's not normally the kind of thing I'd go for. It's a bit pretty, but excuse me, sorry if you're having to, because I've got a microphone right here. You're probably hearing every little gurgle from my throat. It's got some cool stuff about it. The thing I really like about this picture is, yes, the sky's dramatic and all that kind of thing, but it doesn't look like a early morning or late afternoon. It may be. It's just the way, I don't know. It's just the way the light is in it. What I really like about it is that it is going to be a really big exercise in restraint, not doing too much, not trying to make buildings out of those buildings, for example. Just squint your eyes. It's a shape. So, and same with the people. They're just suggestions. There's going to be no big figures that are, just stand out as being figures as such. We're going to know what they are, but this is where our impressionism is going to come in. The biggest lesson here is keeping some white paper for all this glare and stuff, and just that simplicity of a brushstroke doing the work for you. Bizarre, but it's going to be good fun. And there's still the obvious things, like there's the darker blue at the top, the lighter blue at the horizon, etc. But the cool thing is, the sort of thing that's a little bit different about this scene is that there's no beach as such. There's no sand. It's just water and sky. So it's very excuse me. It's very tonally driven, which is perfect. Really perfect art for me. But it's just a nice scene. It's simple, but the composition's good. And try to keep some of that white paper. We're going to sort of kind of going to go the opposite of what we did on Tuesday night, whereas we use a whole bucket of white paint. We're going to try and need bugger all here. If any, let's try and leave all white paper and no white highlights. That'd be fine. That'd be great. But yes, it'd be good. It'd be very cool. So I'm going to, what are we? We're at 9:08, so that's plenty. Okay. Now, are you guys all ready to go? As far as if you're painting along, you guys all ready to rock as far as your paper's down, you've got your paints ready. I've got to squeeze out a couple more paints, so that's all fine. So no major dramas, but let me know if you're ready to rock. Oh. Coffee number 3 is always good. Excellent. Rockin'. Oh, hang on. What I'll do, just for a second, just for a bit of fun, I'll show you the completed podcast logo. This is like the artwork that shows up on the episodes and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. I did it last night, but it works nicely, I think. I don't know. You tell me. Won't be a sec. What I'm doing is just airdropping it from my phone to the computer so I can show you then. Here we go. That one. Okay, cool. Let's do this bit. Excuse me. Don't know what's going on there, but that's all right. Let's do. Yeah. There it is. Hey, there it is. Now I'll just make it smaller. What do you reckon? I reckon it works all right. It's a simple, and yeah, I was trying to figure out how to get the little Tony White Watercolor logo to go wrap around the front of the hat to make it look like it's curving around. Kerry, you must do podcasts. Podcasts are amazing. Do you use an Android phone or do you use an iPhone? Apple products or Microsoft products? Or Android, rather. Because Apple, cool. So you've got Apple Podcasts, which should be on your phone anyway, just by default. You go in there, search for all kinds of things, and just listen. They're just purely just audio and people talking. It's like, imagine the best radio shows in the world just at your beck and call whenever you want them. Seriously, have a look into it. The possibilities are endless. It's going to be great. So that's the logo for the podcast. And I'm going to do something potentially annoying and leave it right there. Let's just see if that works. Yeah, that works. Cool. Okay, sweet. So I'm going to go over to the board and start painting. So adios from my ugly head for a second. There we go. Okay. All right, so paper's ready. I'll just draw up quickly. I've just realised something, but that's okay. I can do it from here. All right. So composition-wise, I'm just kind of going to sketch it in really roughly. A lot of the work in this piece is coming from the paint. You know, it's not so much a big drawing as it is a big painting, which is good. That's what we usually want. Got to give us a bit of room for the good old water, not too much, because we're going to want some room for the sky. In fact, that's probably too high. About there. Little trick, if you want a straight line, and that's definitely not a straight line, hold your pencil kind of like that. So you use your thumb to drag like you're holding like that. And you can generally, once you, where it is, just move your arm. Generally get a pretty straight line. But there you go, wacky do, you learned something already. Now, I'm not going to bother drawing in details of where these buildings are. I just want to put really light marks so I can get some scale, that's all. We all know it's the Gold Coast. You can feel the bleach from here, the fake tan. I can smell it. Painting the Gold Coast, all I smell is fake tan and middle-aged desperation. I can say that I lived there for a while. Okay. That little ridge that comes out there in front, while it's pretty much nothing there, see, it's that thing again. While there's nothing there, it actually serves quite a good purpose for this picture, because it just gives us that little bit of extra depth, and it's just another tone that'll bring it forward a bit. So don't care what it is, but ish. So I'm just going to put some rough marks where I want the white paint. See if I can maybe follow, and a bit of scale for the figures. Just small. They're really small. Because this is a photo taken from an elevated angle, we've got people on different levels. So if we were on the ground level, the heads would all be the same height, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they, everybody? Yes, they would. Okay. Now, I'm not going to do any weird stuff in the sky. Yeah, that'll do. It's just to get an indication of where we want things, that's all. And I'm just talking through my process here, my thoughts. Hopefully they stick to painting. My thoughts, I mean. You should be right. So, one thing I'm going to do, just before it's too late, is just rub out that horizon line a bit, just to make it a little bit lighter. Here's a question that I get asked. Seems like a silly question, but it's not really. What eraser and what pencil should I use to draw up? I know I've got a funny thing on YouTube where I go, just use a bloody pencil, bloody. Okay, that's fine, and that's ultimately true. Use a carpenter's pencil, use IKEA pencil, doesn't matter. But if you're going to take into consideration a couple of things for pencils and erasers and stuff, I would recommend the following. Firstly, I use a 2B lead in the pencil, just a mechanical pencil all the time. Anything softer, like it's still a little bit hard sometimes. Anything harder than that, like an HB or something like that, would just tear your paper apart or dig into it too much. Ideally, sort of 3B, 4B is good. Problem there, you've got to draw really cleanly and leave so few marks that you're not going to muck around with it, because you're going to end up with really dirty paper before you start. So yeah, 2B, 3B would be ideal. And the eraser, there's a lot said about that. Kneadable erasers are softer, they don't damage your paper, but if you've got decent paper, they're not going to damage anyway. You can see what I use, just a bog standard rubber. Doesn't matter, just don't scrub at it for hours and you're laughing. Worst case, if you've got some blue tack in your cupboard, use some blue tack. Perfect. It's a kneadable eraser that's a quarter of the price. Hello, Kanya, how are you? Good stuff. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, I think I need to get a couple of colours out just before we start. I didn't realise I'd gone through all that blue the other night. I should have, I suppose, if I thought about it. Excuse me. Bit of ultra and a bit of cobalt. It's all tainted with everything. That's all right. It happens. So, rumour has it, you know, my fancy palette, the fancy one that's coming from India, it's got my name on it and everything. Rumour has it, it's being sent. It's all paid for. It's all DHL is shipping it. So when I get it, I'm going to film myself unboxing it and showing you the excitement on my face, because I cannot wait to get it. It's going to be amazing. The things we get excited about, hey? As painters, joys. New palette's like a new car to me. That'll do us. We don't need any more than that. I've been listening to a Scottish podcast, so I've got Scottish in my head. very badly. I might add. It's just a wee dram. Okay, let's paint some stuff. Big floppy brush. Something. Well, just not soft, just soft. And notice I haven't cleaned the water from the other night, so there's still going to be quite a lot of gouache in there somewhere. That's all right. So just with quote unquote clean water, I'm going to just put some rough marks where I want the blue to be. This is rough, okay? Don't plan it all out and get bogged down. Because where that water is, we'll happily accept the blue paint, but whoa, shit. But where the dry paper is, will stay white. That's what we want. It's a big shape, so you do want to follow that shape. Big at the top, not so big at the bottom. Blue, I don't care if it's tainted with a bit of stuff that's on the palette already. That's okay. Just mix it up. Just washy, remember. Want it to be a bit more primary than that. A bit sunnier. Put a bit of ultra in there so we get some nice granulation. I'll talk about granulation one day. Probably on the podcast. Alright, so see how where the water is cool, but then we've got some nice edges here that are soft because that's where the water was, and then you get some rough things there because it was dry. So don't hurry this. The sky is a big part of this scene, literally, and the vibe, etc. So take your time a bit. Water is your friend. Just move it around. These that big round thing there is no good, but that's okay. That's what we're working at here. I'll just muck around with things until we get some nice bleeding. You don't want to muck around with it so much that you end up with nothing. That's the danger. That's not too bad. Not too concerned about anything there. I'm just going into a little bit of this raw sienna, something like that, which, anything just sort of warm. Don't worry about the names of the tubes or the names of the pigments on the tube. Just think warm and cool. So not only is the tone lighter at the horizon than it is at the top, it's also a bit warmer as well. So color temperature changes there also. Don't worry, we're not done. We're not done with this sky yet. It's just begun. A bit more strength up here. With cobalt blue in particular, just be careful because you got to kind of mix it a little bit on the palette because it can get a bit bitty. And if you just go straight from, and especially in a scene like this where it's a sky and it's pretty and all that, if you go straight from the well, the well up to here, it can sometimes leave a bit of a stain on your paper. Now, see how that's nice and strong there. It looked funny for a second, but now it's giving it a bit of life. It's bleeding into the wet paint there. I'm just going to change brushes. Same kind of thing, but just smaller. And just got a couple of bits of grey that are just dirty stuff from the palette. Okay, let's put a few bits of grey through as well. And it's still watery, so it'll dry off quite light. But you need something there for the cloud shadows. Otherwise they just look too artificial. Soften some edges, just with clean water, dry brush, or clean damp brush rather. It's probably the better descriptor. Variety of edges is what we're after. It's good having these weird ones. Something like that I would take care of because it's sharp and a bit unnatural. You've got to be careful because you're going to end up with no clouds. So I will leave that, almost leave that right there. A bit in up here. So it's looking all right. Okay, cool. Oh geez, lucky my face isn't on there anymore, can you? That's no good. All right. Okay, cool. So, nah. What I'll do, it's almost tempting to sort of dry it, to keep going with that wash down, but I don't want that look. I want that sharp horizon. So I'm just tissuing that out a bit, and I'll probably dry this off in a sec. I'm going to lift it, move it around a bit, and I'll get the hairdryer out. Good old hairdryer. And why not, just from a height, spray some water on it, move around a bit more. But you'll see in a second once I dry it. So tell me, when I put this on, is it too loud? Is it too loud? I can mute the microphone, but it's just a pain. But is it too loud? Tell me. Is it too loud? There's a little edge there that I've just spotted that I want to get rid of, soften. That's all, easy done. Easy done. A few bits of tissue action. I'm happy just to make this horizon part dry rather than do the whole thing. That'll move a little bit more up there. Well, it is a bit damp still. I'm just going to spray a bit. Whatever happens up there happens. It's cool. Maybe too dry, maybe nothing, but can't hurt. All right, that should be right. Ah, okay. So it takes over the microphone even. Wow. Okay, cool. Good to know. All right. Pointy brush. Yeah. As you can see, it's a fairly straight, sort of sharp horizon on this right hand side. Let's go in ultra, bit of yellow. Just mixing up a dirty green, basically. It's pretty light in tone though. Still, like, compared to the horizon, it'll be a bit darker, of course. Okay. Just gonna make that a bit. There we go. Just make that sharp, flattish. Cool. Yeah. Don't care about this, it's all going to be the buildings. But this is where we need to take a bit of care because we've got to keep a lot of that white stuff. There we go. Yeah. A lot of white around here. And dry brush, don't put too much paint on your brush. You don't want it completely saturated. Pretty dry so you can get those effects. Because if you don't do it this way first, you can't fix it. You know, this is one of those things when you're saving the white paper like this, you can't just go back in and fix something up. Once it's gone, it's gone. Okay. Good. Just changing the tone a little bit of the wash, a little bit bluer. Oop. And while everything's a damp, you can throw other little bits in. But take your time. This is where your watercolor comes to the fore. You know, it's quick and it's spontaneous. So you want to keep that level of spontaneity going in your work. You don't want to have it stiff and boring, essentially. Okay. Bit more yellow. I'm going to green it up a bit as we get further down. Yeah, that's all good there. Bit of whitewash. A bit bluer. You want to kind of, the sky's got to sort of make, the water's got to make sense in relation to the sky as well. It's not just a free for all. That's just a bit too strong there. It's okay. Just going to spray a bit of water, keep it moving around. Just a bit. Yeah, I'm just going to solidify this down here. Make it a bit darker toward the foreground. I always say, while it's wet like this, you can just sort of go to town with it. Like, you can muck around with it. You know, brush strokes don't have to be real solid. They just need to be quick. As long as you're quick, you're laughing. And we'll get rid of that. It's too much there. It still looks funny because this is reading as a big mess up here, but it's going to be you can probably all hear Henry going crazy out there, probably getting his bum changed or something. I haven't heard Sydney yet. I wonder if she's still asleep. Crazy biatch. Listen to him. You would think he's being tortured. Can you hear him? It's interesting because I don't think you can hear what's going on out there as much when I'm using this microphone, which is good. Splash a bit of something, that's okay. And I'm actually kind of happy with that. That's cool because there's enough reflecting here in this water to have it, you know, coexist with the background, which is good. Okay. Now I'm just mixing up a grey. It's blue. Actually, what I'll do, I'll just give that a second. Doesn't matter. Just mixing up a grey, just rubbish from the palette. Don't want it too light, so it's got to stand out and stand up to the rest of it. But having said that, you don't want it too strong either, because if it's too strong, it just doesn't go back far enough. You don't get that distance that you want. Okay. Oh, excuse me with my nose. I'll blow my nose in a sec. Okay. Like I say, I don't care about the buildings and all in the one place, but what I'll do, I'll just give that a second, let it dry off, because I don't want to go on there while that's still wet. I don't care about what happens with the paint. I just don't want my hand to mess any of that up. Yeah, it's different with this. If anyone's just joined later on, I explained at the start that both of these pictures today, the approach that I've taken is I've never painted either of these before. Not familiar with them at all, so it's a good exercise, so you can hear my thought processes along the way, which is cool. Drink of water. Right, I'm just going to turn the microphone off for a second so I can blow my nose. You don't need to hear that. Won't be a sec. All right, we're back. Okay, so I'm just going to dry this off for a second. Okay. Cool. Hey, could you do me a favour? Could you bring my iPad in? I forgot it before. Thank you. So as I was saying before, I'm not worried about putting the buildings in exactly as they are. You know, we'll try, but it's not a major concern. The atmosphere and the mood is much more important. So I'll just go across basically and see where we end up. Yeah, about that kind of consistency. You could use a flat brush if you wanted to, but I like the marks you can get with these pointy brushes. Just go across. You don't want to go too high, you want them too tall, you don't want them to look like they're really massive or too close. Yeah, there. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. Just keep the shapes flat. We don't want any detail in here at all. Or I definitely don't anyway, and I can only teach you the way I do it. Hey. Kind of got to do it quick, but you got to take time at the same time. It's stupid desk. It's annoying, isn't it? Watercolor, bloody watercolor. I'll get all that a bit misty. I guess Shaz has forgotten about my iPad. That's okay. I'll just do it on the phone. Don't know what I'm doing here. The important thing is just the character of these buildings. It's just that nice shape, and you're not painting them forever. Just keep them going. May as well try and get, was it Q2 or something? Can't remember. Be really sure to keep that nice straight bit there. Morning, darling. How you going? Thanks, baby. You sick? Are you woken up with a sore throat? No, you okay? Basil, out you go, bud. Thanks, mate. Nice cameo by the family. Thank you. Alright, here we go. Okay, I've got the picture on the iPad now, so I can make a bit more sense of it. Yeah, it's alright. Just while it's still damp, just getting a few little bits. I don't mind if it looks a bit misty. It is a bit misty in reality there. And we'll just make sure we get a nice straight bit there. So that's the kind of vibe we're after. Just real kind of simple, flat shapes, no details at all. You know, he might have the odd leaning tower or something, I don't know, but that to me is better than things that are too perfect and too straight, because it's a distant thing. It's fair enough if it's a study of a building, you know, it's an architectural rendering of something, go for your life with the detail, but for this sort of thing, just keep it real simple. So, too dark. That's right. It's just like a little headland or something there, I think. Can't remember. It's been a while. I used to live just up the road. This is, yeah, Burleigh Heads, but yeah. I will just soften that. It's too dramatic. It's too much. So with a couple ways you can do it, just grab a tissue, or I'm just going to put a clean brush there just to sop some of it up, and that'll make another different kind of mark there as well. What you don't want, yeah, you don't want it to be outlined like that. It was just looking a bit outlined for a second. Oh, hello Henry, good morning. Okay, cool. I want that to be nice and straight. That's cool. And a bit further down. Oh shit. Sorry. Excuse my vocabulary. Sorry about that. Just want to bring that down a bit further than that, the building line. Oh yeah, that'll do. I'll make a bit more of it. Yeah, getting there. That's all right. It's an important part. You wouldn't think so, just that a little outcrop at the edge or whatever, but it is an important thing compositionally, because it's given us a lot more distance, and it's pushed those buildings back, and yeah, created quite a lot of the atmosphere of the piece without you really thinking it's a big deal. So it's nice. That'll do. I'm not going to do any more, and otherwise I'll end up down here. Keep going. Alright. So while I've got pointy brush and I've got a bit of grey, just having a look at a few bits here and there. Just strengthen a couple of spots. That's too similar, that's okay though. Don't overdo things. Be careful. If you get that little clock in your head, that little fellow sitting in there with a hammer, hitting the inside of your scone saying, "What are you doing that for, you dickhead?" That's when you stop. Don't keep going. Yeah, that's right. Just want to make it a little bit more of a couple of these sections that dried off quite light. Yeah, that's cool. Happy there. Nice. Okay. And I'm just going in, getting little bits of darker paint. Just, it's not in here, just in little bits of the palette, just tiny bits of it, still watery, but because it's a bit darker, I'm just trying to establish a few points of difference tonally, just trying to give the water a bit more volume. Okay, so it's looking okay. Yeah, I don't know what to do. It's just with a tissue, I'm just going to come down and put a few little downward reflections in, and it just sort of gives it that little bit of movement, and you get a bit of glare looking thing. It's okay. Need to glaze down here a little bit. Now I'm doing all this before I do the figures, well, probably for obvious reasons, really, but for the purposes, I just want those figures to be really little blips on the page. Don't want any detail. There's a few little bits of green down here just to give us a bit more interest in the water. It's important. The water is very important in this picture. So that's why we work on it a bit. But if it's right, like I'm thinking it's almost right there, it's important to bloody well leave it. Which is, see, this is the process that you go through when you're doing something you haven't done before, which is what you guys do all the time, I realise, with this stuff, these scenes. And that is, you go through and you go, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that, should have done that. That's okay, it's all part of the learning process. I'm learning along with you with this one. Always learning. Every painting you do, you learn something. Whether you can put your finger on it or not is another thing, but you do. Yeah, just needs to be a bit stronger. Okay. Splatty splat splat is good. All right, remember it's watercolor, don't get too fiddly. Okay, I'm just going to dry this off. Quickly, there's just a couple of things I've realised I've lost a bit while that's drying. Is that has kind of taken away a little bit of the horizontal stuff, so just getting too much there. That's okay. A couple of little bluer marks here in the cross. That will do a world of good. Try not to lose all that white, which I'm rapidly doing. Excuse me. Okay, cool. So, yeah, we're rapidly approaching the finish line, believe it or not. There's not too much more to do except whacking these figures in and going from there. Now, as I was saying earlier, this is a polar opposite of what we did the other night where we used a bucket of gouache. This is where we're trying to use as few amounts of white highlight as we can. We use some of the paper, which is good. That's happening there. I might have to put a little bit of white paint, but that's okay. All right. Cool. Getting there. Let's do these pesky figures. Now, here's one thing to be mindful of. Here's a thought that I had before. Is that's kind of annoyed me because it's dried off, and I liked that sharpness there, or a bit more definition in that outcrop, which I'll probably end up. In fact, I'm just going to do it here. I just want it to be that little bit sharper. Not outline things, don't outline and keep them defined. We just want nice suggestions. But I just wanted that to be a bit more definite. Now the figures, be really careful. Got to make them so small. Pointy brush. Don't try and do this with a brush that's not a pointy weapon. You've got to nice pointy brush. It won't work. And remember, then there's a lot of these guys are guys and gals are wading in the water, so there's not much you can see in the way of legs and stuff. So just be mindful of all of that. Guys facing in. Of course, they're all just silhouettes. If there's any little highlights you can use from the paper, that's good too. This one here is good. Then we get to put a couple of reflections and things in. So we'll put a few more people. We'll make it a bit busier. This one down here, you can see a bit more of their legs, but they're still just tiny, tiny, tiny. Oh, excuse me. I'm even going to resist the urge to put birds in there. I know you're thinking, who are you? Cool. Alright. Now, tiny specks of colour. Let's have a look. Like hardly worth doing, but it might make a bit of a statement, I don't know. Hang on. Gotta have that restraint all the time. What am I doing there? Okay. Now we do need to do a little bit of white. I'm just going straight into the gouache again. Pointy brush, usual stuff. Not so much on these yet because they're still wet, but I just want to get a few little sort of white marks in and around the figures. Just gives us that little bit more movement that we're after. Ooh, that was a bit strong, but that's okay. Ooh. But see how, I mean, if you use it subtly like this, it can make such a difference. You know, even if, you know, you've got this paper, which is, it's off-white really, it's antique white or whatever they call it. So you don't want to go too crazy. But you can also, with the white, it's a different tone, so you can still get some brightness and peaks and troughs around the white paper. You know, if you do it subtly, it ends up looking nice, and you don't have big horrible gouache effects. You've got some nice white paper effects and nice white sparkly whitewash. A bit more here. As long as it's thick and it's straight out of the tube and you're not watering it down to a glaze, just dot it here and there. It'll do wonderful things for you. Yeah, not too bad for the first attempt at this scene. Happy with it. I want to make that horizon line at the bottom of the buildings look a bit foggier, but I'm going to resist the urge just to wet gouache over it. I'm just going to do it with some water, just clean water, just sort of, for want of a better term, just kind of scrub at it a little bit, and you can sort of foggy it up a bit like that, a bit more. Okay, just going to dry this quickly, and I'll probably put a couple of highlights on the top of the figures. Almost done. Bloody kids. Bloody kids. Yeah. Wouldn't want it any other way. Except freedom and autonomy and all that stuff. No, I'm just joking. Just joking, kids, if you listen to this later on. Just joking. I love you. You thought the figures are small, the highlights on them are going to be even smaller. Not much. It's not even hardly worth mentioning. There you go. Alright. Now, I've come to the point here where I'm pretty happy with it, except for I just can't not. I can't not do it. What a tool. I can't not do it. If there are any funny bits in the sky, like that straight line there, you can sort of disguise them a bit. Bring them down here too. Birds are everywhere, they're not just in the sky of your picture. That's better. It's just better. It just gives it more movement, more airy, floaty. I think Joseph Zabugovich says floaty feel. That's a good way to describe it. It's just better to me. Just better. That's all. Let's see. These little white gel pens are really good for this kind of thing too, when you want a tiny mark somewhere. Probably should have used that down here, but that's okay. But you've got to be very careful because you can't smudge them or anything. But they're handy. Good for signing your signatures and stuff too. White one, get a black one, sorted. Okay, so it's done. I'm going to take it off. Then I'll have a bit of a Q&A session with you. So if you've got any questions, whether it's about this painting or anything else, have a think, and I'll sit down with you in a second. Let's have a chat, shall we? So this is pretty quick. And it shouldn't, seriously, if you, with a piece like this, if you are far off from being finished right now, hurry up. You shouldn't be dawdling with this one. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, as in hurry up. I mean, if you're dilly-dallying with this sort of thing, you've got to change tack. Okay. All right, get that. I think someone's trying to get in the door. Buggers. Buggers. We'll leave that about there. And yeah, darling.
Darla feels sick.
Is she?
Yeah.
Oh, poor thing. All right, come on, kiddos. I'm doing some work, babe. Come on, buddy. Come on. Thank you. Sorry, man. Sorry about that. Bloody kids infiltrating. How dare they? Oh, well, that's looking quite nice. I like that. If anything, if I could change anything in it, let's have a look. Probably, I don't know, it's hard. Because it's such a quick one, and it's a bit of a sketch. I'm happy with the amount of white that's in the sky. Maybe, excuse me, if I could have kept a tiny bit more would be all right, but even still, that's okay. I don't know. What do you reckon? How are you guys going with it? Okay. All right, list of things to do this afternoon when I'm in town doing my things. I have to get a mouse pad, believe it or not, because this noise is annoying, isn't it? Yes, it is. Okay. So just let me know when you guys are finished and if you've got some what do you call it? Questions and things, and we'll have a chat and see what we reckon. Where is... That's bizarre. There we go. Craziness. Marquise Foundation. All mail. Let's have a look. Oh, good stuff going to be here. I'd expect nothing less. Excellent. I'm just changing screens for a second, getting some things organized, and I'm noticing that when I come back and look at the picture again, I go, oh, I see a few things that I would have done differently, but not heaps differently, but I'll explain that in a sec too. Yeah, Kerry, got to be careful. I'll see if I can find a picture. I found it once before. I'll see if I can find a picture where, back from my early days, where I'll show you where gouache is very bad. Yeah, I'll see what I can track down. I think it's on the computer already. Let's go back to that. There it is. Wow. Look at this. How's that for a terrible painting for a start? However, that's when gouache kills anything you do. So there's no light, there's no nothing. It was supposed to be a gloomy day, but I've just killed it with opaque paint. Not only just in the highlighty bits, but everywhere in the washes, everything's just killed. And it's a terrible painting. Old days, geez, I don't know when that was. The date on it I can't read. 2014, bloody hell. For those buildings, it was just a grey. So if you've got nothing hiding in the corner of your palette, go for something like a little bit of blue, a little bit of brown. So whether it's a bit of ultra, a bit of burnt sienna, but just make it thin, so quite watery and just flat. Did the darker blue at the bottom, did you just, Vicky, did you just go too strong with it? And because I definitely went too strong with mine, but watered it down a bit so it kind of dissipated. Do you reckon it's just too strong? Granulated's good. No worries, Julie. That's all right. No, it's cool. Looking forward to seeing it. This is a quick one. It's a quick sketch, but it's a thought process, and we'll go back and check some other stuff as well. And Kate, let's have a look. Yeah, it's easy to do, Kate. Absolutely. It's so easy to lose those whites, and it's a big exercise in that. And as you all know, I'm not, I'm I'm the opposite of being snobby about using gouache, but it can, it can be a crutch because you can rely on it too much. So it's a handy thing to get out of the habit of. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough, Vic. All right, I'm going to get rid of that because it's depressing me. There we go. And I'll do this, and I'll do this. Just move it over. There we go. It's better. God, friggin' glare from this computer screen on my face. It's a shitty, that like I was saying, it's that shitty webcam, and it just blows everything up. So what I'm looking at in my picture there, and seeing what I need to change. Obviously, it's a sketch. It's doing its thing like it should be. I would actually really like to do this on a bigger scale with bigger brushes because it's a good composition. I really like the composition. I'm just going to get rid of that logo for a second so you can see what we're doing. Where is it? Let's get rid of that. So you can see it a bit better. Oh, and that one. Oh, no, that one's right. It's just blue behind that. So yeah, I'd like to do a bigger one. I'm really happy with when we're looking at it on a computer screen as opposed to in the flesh. Not looking at the actual piece of paper, I can see that the figures work nicely. They're scaled well. However, I would put a couple of them together, maybe add something in. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to do this. Another figure there with that guy. There's a kid, maybe a kid. Like that. They're holding hands. Maybe there's three people there. A couple of them joined up. That just makes it look a bit nicer, I think. Cool. So you can see just by adding like bunching a couple of those figures up, even though it's not, I think they're all separate in the reference. But you can see by bunching it up, it actually works really nicely. One of the biggest things I would change in this is, or take a bit more care with in this when I do the bigger version, which I'm going to do, is there's a tiny bit of red in the figures that might come up in the photo later, but yeah, there's not much place for it, unfortunately. I wish there was, but it's if you threw some red in there, it'd be, I don't know, a bit, just doesn't suit the scene at all, because that you'd lose a bit of the glare, I think, which is cool. But there's not much place for it. If we were on the beach, if you could see the people and the sand and people sunbaking and all that, no props. But yeah, it's a struggle, but I still had to throw the birds in. What I would change is I'd take a little bit more care with the buildings, but that's okay. I wouldn't change them tonally or the way I paint them. I would just sort of plan them out a bit more, because it looks a little bit haphazard. Looks a little bit like, if you squint your eyes and look at it negatively, it just looks like a dodgy old fence paneling or something. But that's okay. It's all good. Okay. So, what do we all think? Have we enjoyed this little exercise to start us off for this little workshop? Because the next picture is quite a bit more involved, so we don't want to go too crazy. Yeah, well, that's good, Vic. That's good. That's the one of the biggest things with this piece is just that, you know, getting that strength in the white paper for sure. Yeah, I was happy with it when I was happy with it when I first started it. I'm not happy with my water now. I just did too much to it, lost too much of the white. But that's life. That's the process of painting in watercolor. You win some and you lose some. But the important thing is to not work it until you've got no character left in it. So that's a really important thing to remember to not do. Let's have a look. Bloody hell, there's a lot of noise going on out there. Oh no, I can't show you that. Alright, so. Yeah, Kerry, it's a bit annoying, isn't it? The whole white paper. Oh, good, Vic. Can't wait to see it. Excellent. Well, I'm happy with my sky. That's the bit that I'm happy with the most. And see how important it is to have a variety of edges. Yeah, soft edges, hard edges up the top there, and you know, some softness. It's so important. Oh, so important. Someone was asking me about the scrapey thing that I used the other night. And I'm sure most of you guys know this, I've mentioned it a fair bit, but it's simply just a palette knife. It's a palette knife. And realistically, on this one, you have... Why do I always say realistically? Is that implying I'm bullshitting the rest of the time? There are three different sized edges. That's what I like. I mean, you can use a card, credit card, key card, whatever you want. But the handy thing is with this is you've got those three different sizes you can use, but also you've got that control. You can control it a bit better. So, you know, cheap bloody palette knives. Doesn't have to be metal. Plastic one's good too. Yeah, I like the approach to it, Julie. It's just, it was a bit, yeah, just a bit haphazard. Yeah, Julie, see the good old microphone works a hell of a lot better now. So that's a good thing. Yeah, everything's just better here on YouTube. It really is. Realistically, oh man, it's funny when you start. I mean, I don't watch these back or anything like that. But what I do notice, because especially with the podcast, when I've been doing my intros and stuff like that, is that I lose all semblance of eloquence because you're trying too hard. You just have to. I end up talking like about the vocabulary of a 4-year-old, but that's all right. We'll get there. Yeah, you'd absolutely realise what you say a lot and what you stammer over, and that's okay. It's life. So what we'll do, just going to keep it rolling. It's only bloody hell. It's only 10:25. We're going to be finished in a bloody hour and a half. We're going to finish at bloody midday. That's right. We'll keep going, because it's only early. But what I'll do, I'm just trying to think. I'm just going to let the feed go for a second. What I'll do, I'll just leave the room for a moment. I'm just going to go grab a drink and it'll be cool. And yeah, we should be right. So I'm just going to leave this going. I'm going to turn the mic off so you can't hear what I'm saying when I'm outside, just in case I yell at the kids or something. But no, I'll turn the microphone off and I'll see you guys back here. Probably 5 minutes, I'll come back. That's all. Just grab a drink and coffee or whatever. Stay there, Julie. I'm not going anywhere. Stay there. The next one's better. Well, that wasn't even 5 minutes. I just couldn't stay away. And it's just so much. Oh, what am I doing? Kind of not in the wrong bit. That's no good. Story of my life. Just my phone. I'm putting it back on properly. What am I doing? Use your brain, boy. Okay. Bet that's annoying to listen to. There's yelling coming from outside. Uh-oh. That's better. All right. Now, so if any of you guys are just sitting around twiddling your thumbs, you could do me a favour and click on the old share button down the bottom of the page. Click on that. And then anything that comes up that you can share to, Facebook, Twitter, anything there, copy the link, share it to your mates, whatever you want to do. Share for me. That'd be awesome. Because we want more people. Now, painting live. Let's do that. And let's copy it to Facebook again. I'll put it on my watercolor page. Why not? There's so many little things that I've done over the years that come up there. All right. I really appreciate everybody sharing this stuff and growing our group. It's amazing. So good. Hopefully we'll get a few more people coming in a second. I'm going to start this new one. So let's get rid of the painting. I will take proper photos of these later and whack them back up there, of course. Okay. Let's just do this. That's a bit scary looking, isn't it? Okay. That's cool. Look at this. Look at that one. That looks lovely. Oh, that's locked. Just move that a bit. Move. Oh, that a bit smaller. There we go. Gonna lock that. How's it all going? Are you happy with what you've come up with? What you've ended up with? Here's the most important question. Is anyone still painting? Look at this next bit. Oof. You're happy? Or you don't tell me you're still painting, Vic. Surely not. Ready to go. Good stuff. Excellent, Kate. Excellent. So this next one is a lot trickier. However, yeah, I did. I did. I asked two questions when I shouldn't have. Good. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring this picture up and make it a bit bigger for us for a second. Awesome. Yeah. There you go, that's better. Covering my head is good. So I just want to talk about this picture for a second. This is used with permission. There's a Facebook page called Old Edinburgh, or that's mispronounced Edinburgh for my American friends. Just joking. And it's got some great photos. Great photos. Edinburgh is one of my favourite places on the planet. I haven't spent long enough there. It was only probably a week, but I love it. Beautiful place. And there's no better place for this kind of architecture and these shapes. And this looks like it's a bit from the Royal Mile. There's St Giles Church on the right there. beautiful old building, and it's just the perfect. Like, I think I've only been there in, well, it was autumn, yeah, autumn, their autumn, but it was cold, and I think even in the middle of summer, Edinburgh would look like this. It's just perfect atmospheric place to paint. A few things that we'll look at, because as I was saying before, I've not painted any of these pictures yet. So this is, you're seeing me, no, I won't say that. You're seeing me deal with this picture for the first time in real time. So the big thing, the important thing about this picture is it's the atmosphere, the softness, the haze, the mood, just the sheer foreboding kind of look to it, and that juxtaposition of that old world architecture with a traffic light right in the middle. I love it. It's beautiful. The haze and the mist is easy. I'll show you how to do that. It's easy to create. It's easier to overdo and ruin. So we'll get you there. And we're not going to be using much gouache or anything like that. It's all just going to be mostly transparent stuff. There's a few details I will leave out. Okay, so from a point of view of editing, there's going to be no steps on the left. You can just see, you can barely see. Steps on the left, there's going to be no little, because obviously that's a crossing and an intersection. There's going to be none of that. That's just going to be a straight road straight down. Traffic light will be there, but that's fine. We might move the traffic light over a bit to the left so it makes a bit more sense compositionally once we leave that stuff out. Those, I think they're actually, are they signs or I can't tell. On the left, the little archway looking things, I'm going to leave those out. But the garbage bins and all that kind of stuff on the right and on the left, they look great. And most importantly, these shapes on the left, these are just brilliant old buildings. Love it. We'll go for a bit of a wet day feel because it's Edinburgh, but we don't want to make too much of it. We don't want too much light. We want all the light to come from the sky, of course. That sounds like a stupid thing to say, but we want that. We want to keep that really simple and really flat, sort of dead looking. We want the sky to be kind of dead looking, and you also want the figures to be animated. I'll probably join them together a bit and maybe put 3 or 1. Maybe even 1 would look better. 1, just walking across. Yeah, probably do that. But I just wanted to show you and tell you what I'm thinking around this thing. So perspective is a thing here. Even though we're on the Royal Mile and it's all a bit skew-if here and there, still going to maintain perspective, which I'll explain on the way through as well. But it's going to be cool. Did anyone hear that growl come from me? It was like a burp that I didn't burp. It sort of came from my throat. Oh, geez. It's a bit weird. Sorry about that. We can edit that out. Oh, wait. No, we can't. Cool. So, couple of traffic lights, things there. No, all good. Anyone got any questions or any thoughts about this picture before we go ahead? We can sort of talk through it and maybe try and alleviate some of your potential trepidation. Cool. Perspective. It's a 1-point perspective, which means that there's a single vanishing point along our horizon line. I'll go over this in a bit more detail when I draw it up, just so it's not blind for you. Don't overthink it too much. That's the biggest thing with perspective. Perspective is one of those things that is difficult until it's not. It's just one of those things that clicks one day. You can see it a bit nicer. Yeah, darling, hang on. Sorry, guys. Oh, that's beautiful. Now, come on.
I want to say hello to people.
All right, come and say hello to the people in your dress. Okay.
Hello.
Hang on, they're not there yet. Hang on. And then you got to let me work, all right? Okay, hang on. Hang on. Sydney wants to say hello.
Hello.
Lean into the camera so they can see you. There you go.
Hello.
Crazy kid. But anyway, she's got a... Who's this?
Laura.
Who? A
Laura.
Where from? What's she on?
I don't know.
You don't know? She's got her Kuna Matata shirt.
Yeah.
Anyway, gotta work. Love you. How'd you go? And you too, Basil. Come on. And stay out. Wow.
That's what Cogwa says.
That's right.
And stay out.
That's it. Sorry about that. The joys. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, don't say that, can't you? Poor thing. I don't wish that on her. Don't want to wish that rubbish on her. Jeez. You're right, though, unfortunately. Yeah, cool. So perspective I will talk through as we go into it and do the drawing. So, good stuff. That is good. Awesome. So I'm just going to make this smaller and put it in its spot. Oh, what now? I think Basil's trying to bang on the door now. Bloody hell. Go away, dickheads. I only mean that a little bit. Okay, cool. So that's there. We're rocking. Okay, I'm going to go over and whack a new sheet of paper down and start drawing up. So any questions, just have a think and let me know. It's cool with this picture being, well, be predominantly grey, I suppose. You can't really do it any other way. It wouldn't be as good if you tried to make it pretty. You can use up all the rubbish on the palette. It's good. It's good. Love it. Another bit of paper. Yes, there's a right and a wrong side to paper. It's always a question. What's the right side of the paper? Well, there is, and people say no, there's not. You should use both sides. Well, of course you can use both sides. You can paint with dirt from the backyard if you want as well. But there's definitely a right and wrong side to paper. Some papers it's more more obvious than others. Saunders is pretty obvious. The Baohong paper is definitely obvious because one side's rough and the other side's pretty well smooth, but you can still muck around on it. Arches is probably the hardest one to tell the difference between the two sides. They've got different sizings and stuff on either side, so they feel different to paint on. So best way to tell if you're buying full sheets is the good old watermark. The watermark has to read the right way, read correctly. That's how you know you're on the right side. Simple. Simples. Okay. Yeah. I've cut down this board so it fits the quarter sheet perfectly for the demo, so I can fit my palette in, but it's kind of a bit more tricky to negotiate. Okay, no, I don't. Life's short. Truth be known is if you're using 300 gram paper, you don't need to. Makes no difference, honestly. As long as you tape it down and you make it as flat as you can, you're fine. I have done in the past, 100%, absolutely. I've wasted so much of my life stretching paper. It's not worth it. The other thing you can do is buy, and they're dearer, but they're more convenient, is the blocks of paper that I reckon are pre-stretched, and that's fine, and they're cool to use, but they still buckle. It's just you can't really avoid physics. You know, water on paper, it's gonna move. But if you let them see, there's not heaps of water in this picture. Like, it wasn't a big saturated, overworked thing, but it's perfectly flat, no problem, and it's not even 100% dry. This one from the other night is a little bit different. It's a bit more cockled because there was so much water going on. That's fine though. When you frame it, all you do is you whack it on a table, face down, sheet on a table, face down, tablecloth or something over the top of it, a warm iron, because it's cotton, warm iron, warm iron, warm iron, warm iron, warm iron. Do that a few times. No steam, dry iron. While it's hot, whack a sheet over it and a board and put something flat on it, something heavy on it. You're laughing. Frame it up in, it'll be right in 20 minutes. No, we're not on pause, Diana. We're just coming back, about to start the next one. Yeah, it is a chore, 100%. Everything moving, Diana, you can see. There's my hand. Can you see that there? Just want to make sure you can see everything that's going on. Can you hear me okay, Diana? I just want to make sure it's all right for you. Because, yeah, everything's good. Good. All right. Sweet. Now, what I'm going to do is move this picture, because I've moved this over a bit, haven't I? Let's go that way a little bit in the frame. There we go. And all should be right. Cool. Awesome. Well, not sure if Diana's hearing or not. Diana, if you can hear me, just refresh the page. Yeah, the books are way more expensive. Absolutely. The blocks, yeah. Bloody oath. Okay. Pencil in hand. Here we go. So looking at this reference, first thing we do with most scenes really is find that horizon line where we want it. It's pretty decent in this picture, in the reference. So I'm going to go about there. Pretty light. Always start off with your drawings light and your big shapes. When I'll do the big shapes and get everything in place, and I'll talk about perspective a bit. Okay, about there. Okay, rough positions of things. Yeah, that's good. All right, so that's where you sort of block your main positions in, and I'm not drawing anything at the back here because it's all going to be so soft anyway. All right, these buildings at the side, we're looking at flat on, so there's no perspective lines we need to worry about. We just need to worry about getting those shapes in that we want. Lovely points. Pointy bit, looks like some sort of weather vane up there. Yeah, just get them roughly in. Don't go too heavy with your pencil work, because they're going to be silhouettes, which we can work bits of stuff into. But we want that. I like that pitch roof there. There's a perspective line here. So, bit on perspective. There's not much to deal with because it's all a bit of a silhouette. But here, this line here, the building on the right, that line, if we were to follow that down, everything would sort of go down to roughly here. Everything will sort of meet roughly in that spot. So if we get there, there. Now in architectural terms, everything should meet at exactly, intersect at exactly the same spot. In my world, as long as it's roughly right, is good enough. You have to trust me on that. But yeah, as long as it's roughly right, you're okay. So that'll come down a bit further. About there's good. It's all really going to be quite abstract. We're going to work into the wash a lot with darker paint. All right, we're going to keep the painting of the church quite light because it's going to be quite soft. So we just want to get the rough shape there. So here, remember, it's just a silhouette, so just treat it as such. Excuse me. About there is better. Okay. Roughly there. About there, I think. For that, we can do bloody blah coming from there, which would be cool. That's the technical term, bloody blah from there. Yeah, here in the inside of my brain right now. That's why it sounds all empty, cavernous. I know that that's just a point going up there. We'll keep that light. As long as that point's going up in the right spot, we're cool. This building here has a bit of a pitch there as well. So once again, that's going roughly down to there. In the Kerry, on Facebook, if you scroll back, I think it was early April, late March. If you scroll all the way back, or if you go onto a PC or a computer instead of a mobile device, go to the videos section, have a look back, and to look at the one where I do the train first and that orange boat second. That had a lesson on perspective, like where I did diagrams and all sorts of things. That really helped a few people, so give that a look as well if you get a chance. So just for what it's worth, because we've come back in on a second painting, is everybody still hearing everything okay? All sounds good. Just doing a little bit more over here because it's a bit more up front, so we just want to make sure it still works. Everything works. So everything, all these lines on this side of things, still pointing toward that horizon point there, vanishing point, and roughly go in there. Window. Yeah, cool. Okay, so happy with that, because this is all, it's all just going to be like just into the, it's kind of like painting into the light, where you've got so many shadows and things to work with that you kind of can sort of get away with murder. You can just put a whole bunch of stuff in, but the difference is you're not into the light, so you can't do too much, otherwise you'll lose all of the definition. You'll lose the spontaneity of it all. And I'm going to put the red light about here, the main one. That's all I need to do. Somewhere there. That one there. These are all just going to be soft and little bits of stuff along here. Doesn't have to be accurate, you just get that vibe. Cool, that's fine. The figure will go about here. Just one. Get the shape roughly right. There you go. That's cool. And we can put a few little directional lines and stuff. That's sort of it for the drawing, believe it or not. It's all just going to come down to brushwork, which is great. It's what we want. We're painting after all, otherwise we're drawing, so yeah. Everything's pointing roughly the right spot. Good. Happy with that. What I will do, has anybody got any questions before we crack on with the paint side of things? And I will talk you through my thoughts with the paint in a sec as well. Yeah, Diana, it's horses for courses. I mean, if you're using heavy enough paper, it doesn't make any difference. But yeah, stretched. I mean, ideally, we'd all love to paint on a flat surface the whole time. That'd make life a bit easier. But yeah, it's whatever you're into is good. There's no right or wrong there. It's just, yeah, I'm too lazy and too impatient to get cracking on. Let's have a look. Just while everyone's drawing up, I'm going to look up that Facebook video and see if I can paste it in here somewhere for you. Awesome, Margaret, thank you. Let's have a look here. Where are we? Videos. Bloody hell, I've done a few, huh? Jeez, it's crazy. It's funny. I'm just looking at the Facebook page and looking back at the videos, and the first video is of me cooking something. I don't know what it is, but yeah, good stuff. Well done. Okay. Here we go. This was on, it says 2 months ago. Here we go. Let's have a look. There we go. I'll I'll see if I can paste this into the comments there. See if it works as a link. Yeah, it should do. That is the Facebook thing where I do I'll make sure it's right. I do a bit of a perspective lesson to start off the day. And you can actually, I'm just looking at it really quickly. You can see how much better the technology is. Wow, it's crazy. Crazy, mate. But anyway, there we go. Does anyone need any more time with the drawing? Notice too how I've just left that the church, like the main bit on the right, left that really light at the top because I just want that to sort of disappear and fade off, and I don't want big ugly pencil marks in there. So be careful of that. Rub anything out that you think would take away from that effect. And if everyone's ready, just give me the nod and we'll crack on, eh? So this, the painting of the scene is cool, good stuff. The scene is also from a bit of a height. We're not at eye level when we're looking at this. So if you're looking at the reference photo, wherever the photo is taken from is a little bit elevated. So we can just simplify things. There's one figure, so we're all cool there. And I'll explain more about the perspective as we paint as well. But perspective's not a big deal in this one. As long as you get the major things, which I'll show you, you'll be right. Okay, so we need to kind of pick a colour. A mother colour, so to speak, a overarching hue. That my voice probably just got really loud. Sorry. We need to pick a hue, and I don't think, we can go green or anything, but something. I kind of like that sepia look, like it is there, but maybe not so dull. Maybe a little bit brighter than that, but sort of orangey browny, warm rather than cool overall. This is where that exercise comes in that we did a few weeks ago. We did the same scene with a warm and a cool vibe to each of them. And we need to pick something there. So whatever you do, you can, I'm going to go warm, but you can go cool as well. You do whatever you like, but stick to the same sort of principles. So same family of colors, so you get that homogeneous look, and harmonious painting is probably a better way to put it. You don't want bits and bobs and bits of color here, random, just picked at random. It'll look awful and look like an amateur's done it. So we need to be really mindful of giving ourselves a good chance at bringing out a cracking painting because it's a good scene. Okay, we're ready to rock. Let's do it. Painting. I'm going to give it a bit of a spray because I'm going to do a big wash first. So a bit of a spray will just help the wash go onto the paper nice and smoothly. Biggish brush. This is my Chinese calligraphy brush. Long hair, cheap as chips, but it holds a lot of stuff. Yeah, what do we got going on here? That's brown as brown. That's a poo brown. I don't like that. Let's go into that. That's a bit better. Yeah, you don't want to have ugly colours, but you also don't want to paint. You want to choose things that suit what you're doing as well. My overarching thing here is that warm colour, but I don't want warm as in bright orange or anything. it's got to be suitable. You know, like just the same, for the same reason you wouldn't paint, you know, the tropical islands using greys. You're going to get some colour in. So choose things that are appropriate to your scene and your subject matter. Now we go. I'm going to go a bit darker and a bit stronger at the top, as per usual. But what I'll do in a second, a bit of orange in there, so get a bit of brightness. A bit of raw sienna. All right, there's a lot of paint there already. So I'm just going to get some water and bring it down a bit. So we get some nice light remaining at the right in the guts. Right in the guts. And just while it's still wet, I'll put a couple of little things there. Oh, this is good. This will lighten up so much by the time we get to the end. I like that look. That's good. That's watercolor doing its thing. Now we're going to start bringing in that darker color. So we want darker toward the foreground, just like it is in the picture. If you squint your eyes, it's a bit of a vignette. I think whoever took the photo got the vignette filter going for sure. Oh, that's a bit of my palette coming off. Look at that. Bit of enamel coming off the palette. Thanks, Holbein. No, it's it's fine. It's old. All right. Bit of burnt sienna. And you can kind of scratch at it here. It doesn't matter. It's all going to end up nice and soft. So much water around. Yeah. Juxtaposition. And a bit of blue straight in here. Kind of like it did at the top. It's sort of going to granulate nicely. But I just wanted a little bit of it there, just underneath. Just going to let that do its thing for a second. Awesome. Keep forgetting about that. Good. Kate, I just saw a question that you wrote earlier when my daughter so rudely interrupted us. About just sort of having it, sort of keeping an eye on the moisture. You just have to keep spraying it. Like if you've got a spray bottle, something like that kind of thing, just keep spraying it. Anything that mists, fine. If you're in that position, spray it from a distance, from height, and just let it just mist over it. So that's what you want there. You don't want to have it blasted in the middle or anything. But yeah, a bit of stuff from a bit of height will keep it interesting for you. Keep it going. Whenever it's wet, you can manipulate it, so it's good. I'm just getting a few of these marks in there. Okay, so I'm kind of happy with how that's turning out. What I want to do though, soft tissues, clean tissues, a few of them. While it's still wet like this, I just want to make a few little adjustments here just to soften a bit of that. And it's okay, I just want to stop that whole cascading effect going all the way down. It looks a bit funny sometimes. But doing this, just you don't scratch at it, you're just sort of dabbing. It'll give us an even thing. And when that continues to dry, we'll be laughing. So I'm just going to dry this now with a hairdryer. I'll start at the bottom so that I'll leave that top do its thing for a moment. Yeah, I love it. Got to have everything. We do have to have everything spot on dry here. Sorry, I forgot. We do have to have everything 100% dry before we do the next step. So go nuts if you're ready. That looks a bit rude. Alright, it's pretty right there. Awesome. And when things like this happen down the bottom with that little cauliflower and background that we're having there, doesn't matter because it's on the ground. If it was in the sky when I wanted that nice misty look, then different story. But it's on the ground, so that's cool. Happy with that. Doesn't matter. We'll have some stuff going over the top of it later on. Just gives us a bit of texture anyway. So if that sort of stuff happens, just leave it. Don't worry about it. Move on. Your painting will end up fine. Another rookie mistake that you'll probably learn the hard way sometimes is whenever you're using a hairdryer, just wait for a bit before you get stuck back into your painting, because it'll, in theory, be warm. The paper will be warm. And if you start going straight onto it with your water, it's going to dry so quick. And especially when you want to get a soft look, it just won't work. Okay. So going in there with some greys, I'm still the same browny blue mixture, but it's dominated by that warmth. I can't make out any of those scenes, any of those buildings and things in the background, so it doesn't matter what they are. We just get stuck in because it's all soft anyway. Just put something there. Got to have something there, obviously. And it comes down or whatever. Blah blah blah. You know what we do? While it's wet, we soften the edges. It's just softening the edges, that's all. You've got to work pretty quickly for it to give us the look we're after. You can work back into it if you want to, that's fine. And if you get any little spots that are a bit hard-edged, tissues are your friends. Something like that. Nice and soft. Cool. So still working on this left-hand side. I'm going to get two brushes going. So this one here and this one here. So wash, pointy bits. Think like that. Wash, pointy bits. Because you've got to work, still got to work quickly and get everything in there. So that's my wash colour. Happy with that. Got to get a pointy bits colour. Now we still need it to be warm, so we want that dominant. The blue's in there just to strengthen it. But you don't want to go too crazy. You want it thicker and darker, but not ridiculous. All right, here we go. Cool, happy there. Now we get some darker bits going, and we make sure we get them touching and bleeding together. And it's a bit skewy. Let your brush dance around. Just making sure there's nothing crazy going on. That's good. And you see how that's bleeding nicely. Just go back in. That's cool. Looking good. That bit of bleeding going on there. Nice. It's all soft. All gives us that soft look that we're after. Bit of thicker paint there. Move it around a bit. Okay, thicker paint again. I like working this sort of stuff while it's still a bit wet, you know. So you're going to get some soft edges, but I think I plan to get a little bit of scraping going on here in a second. And here's that whole thing that I was saying the other night. Whenever there's a bit that you've got to paint, but you don't know what to paint, you don't know what to physically get in there, just dry brush it or soften the edge up, you know, that kind of thing. And then you're laughing. You know, and you get that look anyway. Now, it's all very wet at the moment. Just trying to reiterate these few little bits of detail while I can. When I say detail, they're just, you know, bits. Detail's probably an overstatement. Alright, so with the good old palette knife, you got to push pretty hard. All of a sudden that bit's there. We'll do a bit of scraping in this piece because it lends itself to this kind of scene. Got to wait for it to be dry enough to take effect properly. That's okay. Yep, that's all right. Happy with that. Right, just going to let that sit there for a second. It's all good. Yeah, there's a bit coming out there. That's just that little footpathy bit that I wasn't going to do, but it's okay, that'll work. It's easy enough to do it that way. Yep, happy with that. That's fine and dandy. Don't make anything too neat. Remember, we're in Edinburgh. We're not in downtown Tokyo. Not that I've been to downtown Tokyo, but I imagine it looks a little newer than this. So still while we're wet there, I'm just going to work it in a bit. Cool. There we go. Ah, wrong paint. That's okay. Got the garbage bins and whatnot. Cool. Happy with that. Just giving it a bit of a spritz. It won't hurt. Oh, thanks, Kerry. And thanks, Kanye, as well. Yeah, you've got to work quickly in watercolour. You just do. There's no way around it. No escaping it. You just have to. And if you're not working quickly, you're just overworking it. You're never going to end up with a fresh-looking watercolour. All right, let's tackle the big church. Just going to do it all with one brush. It's fine. So, lots of water. And here's a tip. For this sort of thing, I want to use a bit of lavender in the mix. It grays it off, and it's a tiny bit opaque. But when you wash it out like this, it just adds a really nice texture to the paint, and it reacts when we sort of spray it off a bit. So we still want nice and soft stuff going on. I will give it a bit of a spray in a second. Don't let this dry before you spray it either. I just figured it's better to do that little bit and just have it bleed out naturally than try to force it too much. Remember, there's a lot of water here, so it will dissipate a lot once it dries off. Okay, careful to keep those bits. St. Giles Cathedral's amazing. Love it. Beautiful place. I'm not religious at all, but churches are unreal. Love it. Still just a silhouette, soft silhouette. Not worried about any form of detail here whatsoever. Oop. Nice and soft. And I'm just going to paint all of that with a bit of a few fast brush strokes here and there, so we get a bit of that dry paper look. Just take care of that. Didn't realise that was happening there. Keep an eye on your painting the whole time, so that's why it's important not to get bogged down in a particular area for too long, because you want things can happen when you're not even realising they're going on, you know, so you just keep your eyes peeled for things like that. And if it's not doing what you want, fix it. Because if you let it dry, that's when it becomes a bit of a mission. Not impossible, but it becomes a lot more difficult to fix up. Kids. Alright, so I'm just gonna, that's just a little wash I wanted to put over that. Why don't I do this? May not work. It's just that front building. Make it a bit warmer. And a bit stronger here. So just kind of making that up a bit, but it'll work. Like I said, I've never painted this scene before, so we're just flying by the seat of my pants. So just going through, checking things out. Should be okay. Should be good. Should be good. And that can just come down there. That's good. Now, just while that's doing its thing, I want to bring down this softness and reflection. There's soft reflections here, so don't get too caught up. But we want them nice and soft. But we go strong here. Even blue, get it mixing so it gives us a bit of that grey. Cool, happy with that. And that just gives us a bit of a lead in without having to really paint anything in detail. It's good, that's what we're after. Soften that up, cool. Oh, awesome, thank you. Okay. Yeah, happy with how that's looking at the moment. Just looking at it on the computer screen, what you guys are seeing. And yeah, I dig it. I dig it. Let's just move that over a little bit. And look at, move it over a bit. Cool. Yep, happy with that. All right, I really like this bit of blue here. It's looking good. Looking good. Yin and yang. It's not over there. It's just here. Don't have to make everything symmetrical all the time. See why it's really important not to go too heavy with your pencil when you're doing soft stuff like that. All right, dry time. Now, I'm drying this off now in order to paint this front building. So if I went in there, because I want that warmth and stuff to stay, but if I went in there while it was too wet, it would just balloon to nothing. But I want to see, I want that a bit more defined than this one. So I'm happy with that being soft and whatever. This one I want a bit more defined. Okay, cool. Just let it cool down for a sec. All right. Good. Looking good, looking good. I'm enjoying this. One thing I will do is just while I've got some water there, just want to soften that a bit. Just a little bit there, it's just a bit of clean water. That's cool. Just didn't want to have it look like foliage too much. That's okay, all good. All right, so just thinking of an approach. Yeah, let's do it this way. Do it the old-fashioned way. Paint it. Burnt sienna, tiny bit of blue, ultra. I don't talk about specific colours a hell of a lot. I know that might not help you too much, but I do when I can, when I think about it. But the truth is I'm just looking for lights and darks pretty much, and warms and cools. So I'm thinking about the tone all the time and the colour temperature. And yeah, it's hard. It's a hard one to kind of grasp when you're sort of learning, but you need to, the quicker you can let go of colour and being obsessed with what colour that is, unless that colour does a particular job for you, just think about temperature. That's all you need. Okay, now I'm just sort of being a little bit careful with this because I want it to read properly. I'm still going to soften it up, but I'm just being probably a bit more literal than I'd like at this point. But it's okay, I've got a plan. My plan is to get it all in there so it reads properly, and then sort of muck it up a bit so it's not so neat and tidy. That's cool. Good. Good. Now, get a blue, put it straight in here, mix it on the paper so it does something cool instead of having everything mixing on the palette. Just looks better. And that gives us a couple of little edges there. Just muck around, don't lose all of it. It's hard to stop yourself when things are fun, and this kind of thing is fun when you're playing with the mixing on the paper and things like that. Yeah, that's working. Okay. Bit of water. Now I'm going warm here on this side, and I'm going to put some darker stuff on there too. Some cooler stuff so we can get a nice mix on there, because it's dark on this edge in the shadow. Let's get some blue. You know, all these little incidental bits are fun to muck around with, but be careful, you can overdo it pretty simply. Oh, Henry. Okay. Get that blue in all the way. It's pretty dark on that side. I want to go a bit bluer so it ties in with this side a bit better. See, even though there's still blues and things, cool colours being used, you can see how the overarching theme of the piece, colour-wise, is warm. You know, it's not just a random decision. Whoopsie daisy, that's okay. Whoopsie daisy. Okay, so that'll just do its thing for a moment. A lot of blue, a lot of dark. Because if you let it mix on the paper, it does all sorts of things that you can't achieve if you mix it in the palette. So trust that process. It's a good one. It's a good one to get in the habit of. Bit of dry. Bring that down a bit. Looking a bit tidy. Mess it up. Okay. Cool. Happy with that. That's looking good. Just all that. Make it stronger. Stronger, because there's still a fair bit of water, so I want it to hold up when it dries. Okay, cool. Moving on, I just want to put a few little bits of soft information here that give us an indication of stuff. That's right, you guessed it, stuff. Whoopsie. Watercolor. Let a watercolor do its thing. Even here, it's getting too stagnant, too static, too stale, too. That's a technical term. Just scrapey wapey. About there. About there. I'll put windows in, which I'll paint in as well. When you've got some paint on your palette knife, you can just make some cool little abstract marks that give us an indication of something happening there without having to spell anything out. Because you've got to remember, keep your eye on the prize. You know, the final result here is the figure walking along, the traffic lights, the atmosphere, that mood, and it's all looking cool. So I just want to darken a couple of bits of these up on the front. And a bit of neutral, a bit of blue, a bit of this brown. That window, you scrape it out and whack it back in and you get a couple of cool lines there. It's a good technique. I love it. Nice. Scrapey wapey, that's cool. Okay. Let me dry it off. Hello Angie, how you going? So good, thank you. All right, let me just dry this off real quick. Then, actually, what I want to do first, just soften that front a little bit. See, I don't mind all that stuff, that bleeding. Good. Watercolor, people. Excuse me. Okay, so now what we do is we start getting a few little points of detail over this side. There's a lot of bins and stuff like that. So still just back into the dark paint. I'm just going to put a few little marks, kind of like the way we did the bins in that back alley scene. Just sort of put some paint on there and scrape it out. You know? It's good. Okay. Scraping is good technique, but you don't use it all the time for all pieces or anything. It's just whenever it calls for it. Because it is fun, so it's easy to do too much of it. Let's go. you scrape and then refine a little bit, then it tends to look a bit better. Yeah, that's cool. Happy with that. Now what I want to do is I want to put some directional lines on the road, but I want to do it now before I do the figure. And the detail. I'll turn it upside down because I want to start up there and fade off as we get to the right spot. Let's try it this way. Need to put a few in. It works wonders. The good old directional lines. Sometimes you can do too much, but if the picture's sort of messy and an old sort of scene like this, you can get away with it a bit. But just make sure you have them going roughly the right direction, and tone-wise, make sure they're making sense as well, so they're fading off as they get further away. Of course. Listen to the boy. Crazy boy, that one. Here we go. Boom. There's that traffic light. Something else there, I don't know. Have that coming down over those bins and stuff in the back. All these little marks, they're just gestural, but they mean a lot. They can do a lot for you, these little abstract kind of marks. Just searching for other little bits. That's okay. Let's put one of these things in, whatever they are. Yeah, let's do that. Looks a bit dodgy, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a bit funny. It's okay. It's just indicating there's stuff, that's all. There's things happening there. Whether it's bins or otherwise, it doesn't matter. There's just something going on. A dry brush, whenever you're doing this sort of thing on a building, just lots of little indications of stuff. Dry brush is the go, not too strong. All right, let's get this figure in. Head, make sure the head's small enough. This guy's walking with his hands in his pockets by the look of it. It's okay. Bit of a hunchback, that's okay. That's all right. Out there. Need that little bit of something light-wise. It's cool. And I'm kind of happy that it's just one figure there, and there's not much else going on. I kind of like the sparseness of it, the desolate, which is complete opposite of what the Royal Mile is. It's always bloody busy. And just get a few reflections coming down. Do a bit more. It's not holding up quite enough. I think I don't want to lose any of these little highlighty bits there. They're quite nice. Whatever you do, make sure your reflections go completely 100% vertical. Any angle on them will ruin the whole thing. Ugh. While they're wet, you can fix it. Ugh, shouldn't have done that. That's good. I just need to strengthen this. And that can give us a bit of a reflection as well. See, this is that point that I always talk about where you're looking at your own work, seeing what does it need. You know, you're no longer obsessed with a reference photo. You're sort of going through, you know, making changes that suit your picture. We're not worried about the reference. We're making sure our painting works. I think it does. Needs a couple of little added bits of stuff, but that's all right. I think there's some kind of flagpole or something up there, but that's okay. I know there is on the other side. Comes up to about here, but that's right. We can come out of the picture and the flag can just be a suggestion of something soft up top there. That's cool. That works. Dark stuff. Just looking around. That needs to be a bit stronger there. I'll strengthen that with a bit of water in a second. Okay, that needs to be stronger as well. Just sort of cutting that building in a bit. Yeah, it's better. It's better. It's better still. Just working through it, almost ready to dry it off and put a few highlights on. Cool. Sort of resisting it's a very real urge. I'm resisting it to put something here. It feels like it's missing something, but that's the point. You can't see it. It's all foggy and misty. So resist that. Don't fill it up. Oakley dokley. All right, a couple of things I've seen. Always looking at things, and I just want to redo. I just want to redo these directional lines. You watch, whenever you're doing reflections, because I didn't plan for the reflections to be so dominant, but they are, which is fine. It's good. But whenever you're doing reflections like this, whether it be on, vertical reflections, something going over the top, contradictory manner, like a contradictory direction, works wonders. Now, same kind of vibe as before. I'm just going to do it. Oop, there we go. See what that looks like. That's all right. Excuse me. All right, so let's put some highlights on. I don't know where my jaune is, my white and creamy white, but I don't want just white. I want it to be a bit creamier colour. All right, so I'll just spewed out a bit of white gouache there. Just putting a tiny bit of that stuff that was left over from the other night. Got to be subtle, as always, but just things like that. Instead of doing a whole line, just 2 little bits. You don't have to spell everything out all the time, like I always say. Ironically, I say that a lot, spelling it out to you. As long as you keep your lines pretty subtle, you'll be okay. Alright. Yep, subtlety, subtlety, subtlety. Keep going with the subtlety. Don't stress. Okay. There will be a little bit of red in this scene, straight from the tube. That's Henry. Can you hear that? That's Henry yelling out, "Let it go, let it go." Bloody hell, even the boy's obsessed. Bag on the fella, why not? This is where it just sort of comes to life a bit, putting a few little dots and dashes of colour here and there. Even here. And we've got a couple of splatters, so we've got no choice but to get it on. That might be a silly colour to do. Maybe. We'll have a look. Oh no, that'll work actually. It'll dry off a lot, don't stress again. Alright, dry it off and I'll take the tape off, I reckon. I think it's pretty bright. Yeah, happy with that. For a first run, I think it's decent. It's a good, lots of good little lessons in there as far as tone and color temperature and edges, hard and soft edges. If I had my time again, and I do because I can do the paint as much as I want. If I had my time again, I would not bother drawing the St. Giles on the right, because the soft tone that I got there is cool, but I'm not a fan of the pencil line that you can sort of see, and it hardens it without really doing too much. So that's it in its glory. I reckon it's okay. I reckon it's all right. Just reading the comments there, won't be a second. Oh, thanks, Kenya. Thank you. Oh, what's happening there? Cats, there you go. Got some red in there. You can't see too much of it on the picture, but it's definitely there. Thank you. Awesome. Thanks, Angie. Good stuff. Thanks for coming back and having a watch with us. Oh, stupid camera. Freaking camera. I tell you. There we go. We'll put it back like that. Pisses me off. I pay for these things and they freak out. So if you ever get that blue screen, just sit tight. It just means the camera's doing its thing. Stupid. Stupid. Yeah, there it goes again. There we go. Get rid of that. Spinning wheel of death going on over there. What do you reckon? Do you like that picture? I do. I reckon it's cool. I like the scene. I am definitely going to do this scene again because it's in a bigger form, but the same approach. Oh, for God's sake, camera. Sorry, guys. I'm really sorry. Shit. Um, yeah, thank you. It's a cool scene. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it bigger, and yeah, keeps dropping out like that with the blue screen. You're seeing, Cheryl? Is that right? Is that what you mean? Fuck's sake, this stupid bloody camera. Sorry, I just swore. I didn't mean to. Oh, I did mean to, but yeah. Oh, God. Let's see if that works. Hopefully that stays put for a second. Yeah, the granulation at the top's pretty cool. I wish it's a bit washed out on the screen, but yeah, you'll see what I mean. The Royal Mile in Edinburgh, in St Giles Cathedral on the right there. Thanks, Dana. Thank you. Yeah, it looks it's cool. It actually, the picture itself in person looks better than it does on camera because it's sort of, yeah, as I say, it's a little bit washed out just with the lighting. But no, it's a cool one. I've enjoyed that. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been unreal. It's been a bit of a short one today because of this thing I've got to do this afternoon. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, next week, this was arranged, a couple of months ago. But next week, and I totally forgot about it. But next week we'll be back to normal, 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock, and we'll take our time a little more. Not too much more, but a little more. And everything should be nice. But no, I really appreciate it. And keep an eye out for the podcast, 8th of July. So 2 weeks yesterday. It'll go. No, it's not the Wi-Fi, Dana. It's the camera. It's actually the camera that I bought with donations from everybody, which is fantastic. Bought a good camera because at the first few things of these that I did, I used my iPhone, which is fine, but it's not really conducive to doing long broadcasts and things. So yeah, it's the camera. For some reason, it just cuts in and out. It just does that thing, and when it's been on for a while, and it's stupid. It shouldn't do that. But yeah, one of those things. But I'll try and get something sorted with that. It's too annoying. But yes, definitely with Diogo tomorrow evening, my time, 8 o'clock Sydney time. Diego and I are going to paint something via Zoom. It's on his YouTube. I'll share it as soon as I can. But go and follow him, follow me, subscribe to me if you haven't already. Click that subscribe button and the good old little bell so that so you get notified of what's coming up. And yeah, podcast 2 weeks time we're going to launch, and should be great. Should be great fun. But I appreciate your support financially and otherwise very much, and I love that you guys are helping keep this little pirate ship afloat and sailing on, and hopefully into bigger and better things. So it looks great. Thank you. Yeah, 9 a.m. is fine for me too, Helen, to be honest. I might do a poll on the group this week, through the week, to see if 9 o'clock in the morning suits better on a Thursday. Yeah, it works fine for me. I get up pretty early anyway. Thanks, Kat. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And if you don't already, please subscribe, click the buttons, blah, 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 all that stuff that I'm supposed to ask you guys to do. I really appreciate it. Share the shit out of it if you like. Thank you. And yeah, if you're looking for payment, PayPal information and things like that, after the fact, it's all in the show notes. It's all there. 4 a.m. your time. Yeah, zombie. Yeah, me too, Cats. Absolutely. We see that a lot, and I do a lot of them. So it's great. No, thank you again, and I'll see you tomorrow night if you're with Diego. Come and join. I don't know how we're doing it yet, but we'll We'll see. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.